Hello, everybody. It's Monday. That means DCA day, and we have a new guest. This is Tom, the trading apologist. We've known each other for years. Tom is a new up-and-comer and has some very good insights into trading. And we'll hear more about Tom's story in a little while. And we have CTO in red. First time ever wearing red on the show, CTO.
Yeah, it's a red day in the market today, so I thought to honor it with a red shirt.
Good, and Marty has a little red too on his lettering. Good morning, Marty, sir. You doing good?
21 million Bitcoin in Japanese.
And Tom, welcome to the show. We're trying to bring in new people, new insights, new up-and-comers. How are you this fine day?
I'm doing well. Thank you guys for having me. I'm honored. If you guys, the normal four, are the Beatles, I feel like Ringo Starr's second cousin coming in here, but I'm going to do my best.
No,
love your hairstyle, bro. Love your hair.
Yeah, it's funny. A friend of mine said to me decades ago, he said, less hair is a sign of more intelligence. Because he said, have you ever seen an alien with hair?
You ever seen a homeless man without hair?
There you go. That's a very good point, actually. Sometimes they got great hair. So let's get into it. This one's called the Altseason paradox, and we'll get into why that is. But first, I want to talk about what happened over the weekend. We saw a crazy, nearly $2 billion liquidation in crypto, but there was a twist this time around. I know, Marty, you'll know all over this. Most of the money was lost, not by Bitcoin, not by Solana, not by XRP, but over $500 million out of ETH and 260 million out of others. The question is, what are these others? I'm going to give this to you, Marty Party, first. Is this people getting wrecked on hype and stuff? We saw that James Wynn is back. He opened a $100 million short position on Aster. And we know CZ is looking at that. And we know somebody's going to get wrecked. Does this mean that Aster will go to the moon? And what are these others that got so wrecked? I know what they are, but I'm just kicking it out there to you guys. Marty, tell us what happened.
Yeah, we all were predicting this since September 18th. And it was very clear, we were looking for a 50% pullback from that move from August. And Ethereum pulled back exactly to the cent, 50%, which was just under 41,800. I think 4170 was the white line. So that was bound to happen. We knew it was going to happen. That's your 500 million right there. We also knew Bitcoin needed to pull back to 111,800, 112 to remove. I think there was at $1.5 billion. People were closing on the way down. But we knew that was going to happen. And anybody that, is familiar with liquidation levels should have had their limit longs sitting down there when they went to bed. Remember, Binance does their business at around 2 to 3 a.m. Eastern time, always on a Sunday night. So that was pretty predictable in my mind. But the interesting news over the weekend, obviously, was the BNB pump and the Aster. The Aster thing was quite a phenomenon. Clearly, I've been posting it the whole time about the fact that Binance and CZ own over 95% of the supply. They own 70% of the BNB supply. So clearly it was a Binance induced movement, and they took it all back. They took back their open interest. I think there was almost 300 million at one point in one candle liquidated. So just an absolute payday for Binance over the weekend.
So this others is Aster liquidations.
Oh yeah, 100% Aster.
Yeah.
It was being hyped. They did a good job. They're very good at what they do. They got all the right calls. They got all the right promoters. It was an absolute, hyper liquid killer narratives. And they pumped it really hard. I've never seen a coin gain market cap like that thing in a few days. And obviously it was going to get pulled back. But there you go. Anybody who's top buying tops, please stop doing it. Anybody that's using high leverage, please stop doing it, because this is a consequence of those things.
But the market cap under 2 billion is a fraction of what hype is. Does it have a shot at eating some of hype's lunch? And I know
I don't know. If you've used Aster, you know that the finalization time, because it's BNB, it's just a fork of Ethereum with very few servers. That was their approach to solving the scalability problem. They forked Ethereum and then run it on one single server farm. So it's extremely low, unsecured. It has no security model, but it's a little bit faster than Ethereum, but it's still extremely slow. Runs at around 120 to 150 TPS. So the user experience may look cool, but the settlement time is very bad.
Yeah, I did dabble with it, and the UX has a lot to be desired.
Yeah,
Tom,
exactly.
I know you were perping a little bit on the Aster yesterday. What did you see?
I was, well, interestingly enough, I tried to enter another long right before we went live. And on BitUnix, at least, my longs are limited to a $500 position right now.
There you
I don't
go.
know if that's because of the volatility or just everybody getting liquidated. But yesterday, it was a dream to perp on the 1 minute time frame just because of the volatility. And James and I were chatting. In 2 trades in under an hour, I was able to make my perp trading goal for the month just on that one.
Wow.
So volatility is a gift. Especially because the fees are so much less too, when you can just capitalize on the volatility, increasing your gains.
Exactly. CTO, have you been observing any of this craziness in the market?
I have, yeah. I have not tried trading on Aster though, so I actually don't know the user experience. Let's look at a couple of things. Let's start with Bitcoin. So the levels here were not surprising. We talked about this level. We talked about both these levels on many of the previous shows. So we had a resistance here of 117,300. We had it already before. It was support here, and then it became resistance, and then support again, and then resistance again. And now it's still resistance. So it rejected exactly there, and the dump went exactly to the next support level, which we had here. We also talked about it before at 112,000. So it was, nothing really changed. We're still in the same support and resistance zone as we were last week, but of course it feels a little different. We didn't break through this. Instead, we kind of dumped back to the support level. And it doesn't really mean anything. We're still in the same range. But let's see what happens now. If this starts breaking here and we break below this right shoulder or something, okay, then the market structure would be different. Then it's different. But right now it's not. This doesn't really mean anything for the chart construction. But should we go down here to 109, 108, okay, then it's different. But we're not there yet. So I think let's talk a little about BNB, because this has been cooking for some time, actually. We talked about this. Maybe I go to weekly candles so we see it a little better. There's been this gigantic inverse head and shoulders in BNB versus the dollar, which is like over multiple years. That broke out, when was it? In July, now in the summer, and it really has shot up from that point. It doesn't look so much here, but this is 700 something, now 1,000. So there has been like momentum cooking in the Binance ecosystem. For sure, there were people who knew that things were coming here, and that's what's reflecting in this chart here. So there has been things coming. I know that they worked on the BNB chain previously. I think they made like one single block finality a number of years ago. But I was still surprised to see this come out so strong, trying to make a competitor here to Hyperliquid, clearly. And let's see how it goes.
Yeah, the question is, can we trust CZ, this monikers out
I
there?
think that's a very good question. And maybe I discovered something to do today, which, we've looked at it before, but for some reason, I didn't really notice it until today. If we look at the Sol to BNB ratio, excuse me, I just lost it here somewhere. It looks like this, guys. So this is not by random. Every single time that the Sol market cap comes up to this level versus BNB at 100 or 102%, basically matching it, every single time it gets pushed down.
Every single time.
Every single time. It's been like 3 times that it has broken out of that that pattern where it went up to 132%. You see what happened every time. Then it's just like a bigger sledgehammer. So every time, I don't know, we can count it. It's like 10 times here, 12 times.
And just explaining to the audience what this means is this is when Solana market cap flips Binance and CZ doesn't like being relegated to number 6, Sol number 5, so he pushes it back up.
Every single time that happens, I post, please, sir, can we pass?
Yeah. So like we can even calculate what can Sol price go to based on the BNB price, as long as this, you know, this dynamic lasts. Of course, if this breaks out here, it's a new world. But until that, there is a cap on the Solana price in relation to the BNB price. This is so clear. And
it's a very good chart. Very good chart.
Interesting ARB opportunity there, Tom. What do you make of that?
Well, you know, I'm not playing that pair specifically. I'm sorry to shift back just briefly, but on the liquidation event, what CTO was showing on the charts, there are lots of signs of a near-term bottom. But what was I really look to for near-term turnarounds in the crypto world is at least $1 billion of liquidations. That usually marks a near-term bottom. But what was interesting about this one, and maybe Marty can build on this, this one was really concentrated to Bybit. I think it was 890 million alone in longs just liquidated on Bybit. So it was much more focused on that exchange. Now, a few things broke down on the charts, and we might still have one further dip, you know, in a week or early October. But it seems like right now we're getting a lot of the signs of a turnaround.
Well, let's talk about liquidation levels. Marty, Tom.
Let me give you the numbers on that. Tom is 100% right. Over the last 24 hours, we all know it was around $1.7 to $2 billion. And we know they don't report everything, but let's call it a $2 billion event. Bybit was, I think it was 52.57% of liquidations, 97.58% of the longs were on Bybit. So you're 100% right. And then 21% on Binance. So Bybit has become extremely active. And once again, you know, just another centralized exchange, you know, making their money. That's their business model, guys. That's how they work.
Yeah. And by the way, before I forget, links below for everybody you see here, and we're broadcasting to all our channels as well. And a big thank you to the moderators in the chat, Team D Tesla, Sean D, K8, and everybody else. But these liquidation levels, tell us, Marty, is there more damage to come, or was that it? Flush, royal flush.
In my opinion, this was the long-awaited 1 hour 50% pullback, almost to the dollar, both on Bitcoin and Ethereum, like literally to the dollar. It's just uncanny. It comes right to that line and bounces. And now you'll see a lot of consolidation. People that are not aware of that, they think that's the end of the world. They don't really understand how the market works, and so they're going to, you know, a lot of people will panic sell. But the problem is the longer time they hang around down here, more longs will open. Degens will be degens. I can already see people opening just a ton of 100Xs on Bitcoin. So they're going to have to first take care of those. So I reckon another double bottom like BNB just stood down to that 111, 800 range just to take care of those late longs before we move back up. But I think it's a reverse head and shoulders, typical winter mood pattern. We should all be very, very wary of this now. We can see it happen. And then we'll continue up. I think we'll go back to support.
And remind the community again what the 50% level drawback is.
Okay, the way the market maker works is that, you know, they're market making the moves up and down. It's not only down. So when Bitcoin rallied up, and Ethereum particularly, that was very much driven by Wintermute, and they always take back 50% of whatever they put in. So if it costs them 150 million, they'll take back 75 million. So it comes back to the 50% line, but obviously it always goes a little bit under the line because retail traders panic. And you got the dreaded cascades, which is the big problem we want to try and remove with market structure. With all these high leveraged futures positions, you know, whenever a leveraged long gets liquidated, it forces a market sell on that exchange. So as those sells happen and automate, they trigger more liquidations. And so you get this cascading liquidation ladder that we see in crypto, these long, horrible wicks that everyone thinks is the end of the world. That's actually just the bot-based automation liquidation cascade, you know. And like Tom says, you can either be fearful of it or you can praise it, because as a short-term trader, you know, we wait for those moments. My entire strategy is to wait patiently for that cascade and to enter long at the bottom of that cascade, because it's clearly a cascade. And that's how you make, good, you extract liquidity out of the market. But you've got to be patient. You've got to wait. The 1 hour, 50% pullback can take up to a week, 10 days, sometimes 2 weeks. I think Tom is really good at talking about this. There's two markets. There's the long-term high time frame market, which is pretty much Bitcoin following global liquidity. And then there's the short-term market, which is controlled by Binance, Bybit, OKX, which is about their casino and, selling gamblers' positions and liquidating them and making a fortune. The question is, what do they do with the profits? It's clear that Binance puts the profits into their BNB token, their Aster token, and enhances their business. And why shouldn't they? They're a company. That's their mandate to their shareholders, which I think BNB is somewhat of a proxy share to Binance at this point. And, Coinbase does the same thing to their, they've got a new exchange. We don't talk about it, but I think it's really about Aster versus Avantis. Are you guys aware of Avantis exchange on Base? I think there's a little bit of a war between Coinbase and Binance right now in their pursuit of hyperliquid, and Binance created Aster and Coinbase created Avantis, and they're both these sort of pseudo DeFi exchanges. And they're going after each other. It's very clear.
And Jupiter's in there too with $5 million limits as well. So they're all going after these high limit players, because rather than liquidating 1,000 retail investors, you can just liquidate one of these guys. So
interesting study in psychology, that one.
Exactly. But let's get back to Bitcoin and the big news, everybody. And thank you for that little intro. We normally don't start with liquidations, but it was kind of historic and a little bit different. Dennis Porter, probably the most connected Bitcoin crypto guy into the halls of Washington, D.C. and the White House and everything else. He says massive political news coming for Bitcoin Tuesday that will reshape the trajectory of Bitcoin politics. This will be a defining moment. Now, granted, Dennis is wonderful, but sometimes he gets a little bit excited. How would you temper this? CTO, any ideas what could be coming? Could it be what Cynthia Lummis is talking about, saying Trump supports her bill to buy 1 million Bitcoin? But it's not just Trump that needs to support it. What's coming next?
I wish I knew. I have no idea what will come, unfortunately.
Okay. Tom? Marty, any ideas?
I mean, I always say in markets, it's better to have patience and react instead of predicting when it's something that's out of your control like this, when we don't have edge. And so for all the charts I'm trading on the short time frames, I have very clear levels overhead and over below, and it's a simple if-then statement. If we break up, then I take action X. If we break down, I take action Y. Doesn't have to be much more complicated than that.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's got something to do with strategic Bitcoin reserve. I think it's some kind of announcement coming. I don't know what exactly it means. It could be, we know there is Bill 595188. They're going to vote on, which is to create a strategic Bitcoin reserve. They had 90 days to prepare a plan. So it could be the unveiling of the plan. What to do with the 200,000 Bitcoin, which is in a lot of wallets. The marshals, the FBI, maybe they're going to create one single US wallet, which would be a really great step. I think it's something along those lines, maybe the formation or early stages of a push to create the SBR. In my opinion,
they got crazy tariff revenue. There's a lot of talk about gold revaluation. There's H1B revenue coming now too. So it's very bizarre. But anyway, we'll stay patient till Tuesday and see what happens. It could be nothing burger.
Budget neutral means.
Yeah. And then Bitcoin is now number 9 if you rank it against GDPs of countries. We are seeing weird stuff happening where GDPs of many nation states are actually going down. But you can see here, this is just an interesting stat that Bitcoin is now bigger than Canada, Brazil, Russia, Mexico, and other places. It's interesting how it's growing, and we're still early, ladies and gentlemen. Now let's talk about money, because this is a money channel. There is now a new all-time high in money market funds, now 7.7 trillion. This thing just keeps going up. But normally, when risk rates get cut, this money goes risk on. Okay, but let's not just talk about the 7.7 trillion in the US. China has 23 trillion. So 7.7 plus 23 is over $30 trillion of melting fiat that soon will look for risk. And this from Zero Hedge. How soon until locals discover they can buy crypto through Macau again? when could this happen? CTO, you're connected pretty well to Asia. Any ideas here?
Yeah, I mean, I always feel like dropping yields should be good for Bitcoin, because for exactly that reason you're saying, that you kind of, when you get very good returns, almost risk-free, more people are likely to take that deal, right? But when the deal gets worse and worse, you almost have to do something else. Okay, what you're going to do, you're going to buy some index fund. Yeah, some people will do that. Some people will buy stocks, but some people will also put them in crypto. And yeah, this should definitely be good. And I'm speculating that is part of the explanation for gold's run exactly what we're seeing now, like the traditional gold. If I can just for a second share the chart to remind everyone what physical gold looks like. It looks like this. It's up every single day. Now today is all-time high again. It's up on every time frame, all the time. You know, whatever you pick, it's up. And it's, you know, not by a little. This is the world's biggest asset, and it's up like this. Stocks also. Stocks have new all-time highs almost every single day in the US, and many Chinese stocks are going well also. So I'm kind of surprised when flipping from gold. So this is gold, here is US stocks. Why do Bitcoin look like this? That is surprising in a way, and it smells. I said last time, it kind of smells manipulation. That's my take, because I feel that exactly what you showed there, James, is like one more reason why this chart should point more straight up at this point. And it's not.
I mean, because gold, the stock market have one or two exchanges highly regulated. They've banned wash trading since 1934. Crypto has 600 exchanges with zero regulation. So they're selling these 100x positions. It's just it needs to be controlled. There's no doubt about it. Or else this will continue. It should be higher.
And also historically, 30 days after gold makes a new all-time high, Bitcoin does. We still have another 10 days left for that to happen. And that could coincide with the calendar of October. Who believes in October and Moonvember? Will they happen this year? Quickfire trading apologist Tom, what do you think?
Well, Rectember hasn't delivered. I look back at the last 100 years of post-election years in the S&P 500 last week. And what was interesting, the years that had an up August actually didn't see the correction in September, but they saw it in early October. Now, if that happens, I don't think it's going to be a big or a long sustained correction, but it seems like all of this confluence of factors is coming together with liquidity and everything else that could really lead to a meaningful run. And just in the back of my mind, I'm like, is there going to be one more flush and an unexpected timeline or time in the market to just shake people out right before things run up? So I'm just staying cautious of that. But generally speaking, I think October and into November will be up.
Awesome. Good stuff. Let's get on with the agenda. There was another concerning chart that people were worried about. You can see Ethereum has made records, new all-time high a week or two ago. Massive digital asset treasury buying of ETH, or are they just moving it from Lubin's bag? We're not sure. But this is from Masari, and they seem to be a little bit concerned about the actual revenue that Ethereum is generating, even with DeFi TVL hitting new all-time highs. So the question I have for all of you here, I like to follow the money, but the question is revenue essential considering there's so much locked in DeFi, like all the staking ETH actually gets added into TVL for Ethereum? Or does revenue matter? That's the billion-dollar question. I'm going to give it to you first, Marty. Does money matter?
I think that first of all, you got to look at the Ethereum validator queue. I think that's the early indicator that something is changing. I mean, there's two. If you take away the exit queue, incoming and outgoing, there's over 2 million ETH waiting to be unstaked, and it takes roughly around 40 days once you ask to get your ETH unstaked. But the question is, what's going to happen to that ETH? I think there was a lot of shilling, Tom Lee behavior on ETH, which drove the price up. We just did the 50% pullback. A lot of people aren't aware of that, so they're getting out of ETH. I don't know, James. In my opinion, I don't know why people are holding ETH in the first place. It is very slow. It has no fundamental value. It's not a store of value. It's proof of stake. It's if you look at its Nakamoto coefficient, it's 2. It's only what look at something like Optimism or Base, which is a layer 2, which has no security model. Ethereum is a 2. Optimism is a 1. These things literally have no security models at this moment. They're all held by a few entities. So I'm not sure really whether ETH has a future, honestly.
So there's nearly 3,000 ETH in the queue, and you got to wait.
2.3 million to exit and 300,000 to enter. So the aggregated value is about 2 million waiting to exit.
Oh, that's 3,000. Oh my goodness. Okay, so a lot bigger than I thought.
Anyone can go. If you go to validatorq.com, you can see the Ethereum validator queue.
And it takes 45 days to get out. That's weird.
Yep. Yeah, that's horrible.
So
but anyway,
this began a few weeks ago, so there could be another 30 days before these people can get out.
Absolutely. It's a long, tedious wait, and you've got to watch these massive flushes. I mean, think of all the people that entered Ethereum on the Tom Lee hype, staked it, and couldn't get out yesterday and had to just bear the 50% pullback.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we are on the last line of support for ETH. If it breaks down from here, it's got more downside, and you can see the clear rotation
ETH chart there if you can. Show us this support Tom is talking about.
Exactly. So exactly as Tom says here, on the ETH to USD, we're on the last line of support. You see this was the resistance, then it turned support. So we bounced there today. This is on the ETH to USD chart. So, ETH fans will better hope that this one holds. Now it bounced today, so that's good. But it's actually looking a little bit worse, I think, than what we see here. Because if we flip to the ETH BTC, which has been enormously reliable for years.
100%.
We see a different picture. We like avoided this whole downtrend, then it turned up, super bullish, chart constructions here, boom, 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 boom. Now, today,
the big yellow piece is exactly when Tom Lee entered, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, for sure. This is sport on speculation. It's like Tom Lee buying this up here. He don't understand anything about validator queues. I don't think he cared. They just bought with a lot of money and then price goes up. So that's the full story. But today it's something changing here, guys. We had now for the first time, this was resistance turned into support. And now that support broke. So if this closes like this today, I'm out with the last bit from this one. Then this is not a happy life if the ETH BTC looks like this. It's kind of not enough to be up in dollar. Like this is ETH to USD. But if it's doing worse than Bitcoin, why take the additional risk? Then it's better just to have the Bitcoin. So this is a very important candle. If this closes like this today, I would say that this nice run is done for me. I'm selling.
So the other thing that I like to look at always is money flow. Watch the money, watch the adoption, watch the developers, all the key things. You can see here, ETH did have a good week last week, pulled in 772 million, Bitcoin 977 million. So a lot of people are talking about the flows coming back. But considering Solana has only one ETF, they pulled in a record 127 million last week. So as a percentage basis, given relative market caps, that's on par with Ethereum. In fact, it's not too bad. The other crazy thing that's happening is this, more tokenization of equities. Forward Industries grabbed 17 million Solana in the space of a few days with partnerships with a whole bunch of other players. But now they want to tokenize more shares using Superstate's opening bell. Marty, tell us more about Forward and digital asset treasury companies and how wild is this getting out there and tokenization?
Yeah, I think the Forward Industries is sort of the Tom Lee, Carl Salami seen as a sort of spokesperson for Solana at the institutional level. They've committed to already 6.8 million sold, but they have, I think, $2 billion aspirations. We also have Pantera pledging $1 billion. I think it's just about to begin. We have 9 spot ETFs that'll start buying their basket soon. I just think there's overwhelming institutional demand for Solana, and it's always been seen as sort of internet capital market network. And Superstate has been quietly building, I think, probably the best RWA infrastructure in the game, once on Solana with its speed and settlement, value. And so I think Superstate's going to grow now in its footprint, especially with this announcement today on Business Wire that Forward Industries to Solana DAT. Firstly, that's NASDAQ Forward. Anybody who wants to trade it have, intends to launch shares and across the board. So much like I said earlier, I think this is all about the Avantis, Aster, Superstate initiatives. It's all about who's going to rush to market and be first with real world assets and US stocks on chain, actual tokenized stock. And we all know Galaxy was the first on Superstate. So they've already, like everything on Solana is always a little bit before. They're always ahead of the game. They've already issued actual Galaxy equity, legal equity on Solana, not an index or a proxy, actual equity. And I believe Forward Industries was probably part of that. And they're going to go ahead, and you're going to probably see the whole Mag 7 on Solana, which I think is massive. Yep, go ahead.
And Marty, they hit your fabled 50% retracement this morning from the initial pop.
There we go.
Yeah, so this takes me to the thing that's eating away at my mind is what I call the Altseason paradox. So is this time different? Is Bitcoin going to continue to run? I think Bitcoin and altcoins should be considered separate. They should never be measured against each other. I think the other assets are now big enough and adopted enough to stand on their own two legs. We know Salmani said that the ETFs are going to be approved October 1st, which is a week from now. That will really kick things off. Think of the marketing departments behind the VanEck, etc., and ARK that are going to push these things like crazy. We got Cathie Wood buying digital asset treasury companies now in Dubai as well. We got Helios launching another digital asset treasury company. They all seem to be front running the ETF launch to get in early before things really kick off, I believe. But here we can see on-chain metrics show rising altcoin activity. Developer engagement is high. We got some big shows coming up as well into Q4. A lot of buzz. ETF approvals are coming. That's all the good stuff for Altseason. But the bad stuff is nothing's really kicking off yet. We did see a big move in Binance. We saw the big move in Ethereum. We saw Solana go from 106 to 250 in a short window of time, then fall back off to 225 now. Macro is good in terms of rate cuts. So where are we with this Altseason? We saw the Altseason indicator as well hit Altseason for the first time since 2024. Last time it did was after the election. Where are we now? I'll start with you, CTO. Any chart that can tell us where we are with Bitcoin dominance or the coin market cap?
Absolutely.
All three?
Absolutely. I don't think it will be different this time. So I can just share the chart. So this is the Bitcoin dominance, one of our favorite charts. And as you see in the past, what has happened many times is that suddenly this one drops off a cliff. And it goes super fast. It goes so fast that by the time retail starts, understanding that it's Altseason, it's already over. They buy here at the wrong time. And since beginning of 2023, this one pointed in a straight line up, meaning that Bitcoin dominance increasing. It's actually from November 2022. It goes up. The whole time, just a straight line up with almost no break for more than 2 full years. And during this time, then, on average, Bitcoin was a better bet than altcoins. That was the overarching story for 2 full years. There were a few outliers, and we've been lucky to cover some of them here on this channel. But overall, this has been the story. And there was a few attempts to change direction, didn't really hold. This is the first time, you can see it here in the picture, right? This is the first time we had this substantial drop in Bitcoin dominance. And I think we have felt it. Everyone has felt it, that there has been something changing now after 2 years, more than 2 years, 2.5 years of waiting. So this is Altseason, like when it starts looking like this, a substantial drop. The question now is, can it look like this? Can we get the drop all the way back to where Altseason have traditionally turned in the past? It's been several times at about the same level, both here at the 2021 cycle and the 2018 cycle. It turned around here. So previously, speculative brains of humans have taken this ratio all the way down here before it turned. If that will happen, that means that there will be weeks of every single thing popping like 50%, 20%, 80%, and it will go very fast, and life-changing money will be made during this part, and then the retail will wake up at the end and buy the top again, as every other cycle. So, can that happen? Yes, I think it can happen. It always feels like it will never happen again. And this time it's the ETFs and Bitcoin and Treasuries and all that, and saying it can never happen. I think it can happen, guys.
Yeah.
Perhaps it will not be as predictable as I wrote here, but I do think that this can go lower.
Tom, I saw you giggling there. I saw you giggling. Yeah, tell us what you think.
No, it wasn't even anything funny, but I do a lot of time analysis in my charting, and Solana respects it pretty well. And I'm not going to do a deep dive on it now, but if you look at a lot of the swings, they run in these 30-day chunks or 45-day or 60-day chunks. And I forgot that the ETF launch was coming on the 1st, or that was the projected date. That's exactly 60 days since our last low on August 2nd. And those kind of intervals you can often look out to for pivot points in the market. So if we're having a pullback right now into that 1st, 2nd date, that could be really good just from a timing perspective of things aligning.
100%. I mean, we should talk about it, James. I don't know if you have a slide about the SEC approving generic listing standards for commodity-based.
I don't have a slide, but yeah, we should definitely talk. So that's,
I think that's the biggest news from last week. Absolutely. That's a massive event.
But that's going to be crazy, because I don't think that's a good thing, because then that creates like an ETF Lollapalooza. So there's be ETFs for every shitcoin on the planet, which will just
no. Let's go over quickly. So I mean, for the people on the call, so we all know that there's the way that the SEC, because it's still regulated as under the SEC, crypto ETFs, especially commodity-based ones, even though they're commodity-based, it's very weird. We need market structure to separate that. But in the interim, we all know it's been a real slog to approve a crypto ETF, because they got to go through those old 1933, 19B4 rules. Every exchange needs to do a process, etc. So, Paul Atkins, thankfully, has kind of modernized it, and they came out with a new ruling to create generic guidelines. Now, the generic guidelines are pretty clear. Basically, you've got to have one of the following criteria to be approved, right? You have to trade on an intermarket surveillance group, an ISG member market. So that's like Coinbase or an existing regulated market. So that eliminates anything that's not traded on Coinbase futures. You have to have an underlying futures contract, or it's one of these things, an underlying futures contract traded for at least 6 months. So for 6 months, you have to have been traded on a futures contract. So things like Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, and XRP have been trading on the CME for over 6 months, so they qualify under that rule. And you have to be backed by an existing ETF with greater than 40% of its net assets value allocation to the asset, which is extremely high mark. Once again, eliminating most crypto, but does allow SUI, which is which might be interesting. So even though it's a generic ruling, it's fantastic. It means that all of the current applications like Solana and XRP will definitely get approved. That's the big takeaway. Even Eric Balchunas agrees on that. But what's interesting is this, it'll make the Solana ETFs approved potentially before the deadline. So that's, before October, I believe it's 15th, which is in exactly what Tom just said. It's around 2 weeks from now. So I would say around the turn of this month, we might see approval of the Solana ETFs. It'll definitely mean the XRP ETFs will probably get, re-reviewed around mid-October, but probably could launch before the end of 2025. Litecoin probably will launch. Dogecoin might launch. And SUI, the 21 shares, might fall under one of those criteria. So it's quite interesting. It might accelerate those or guarantee their approval, but it opens the door for a more generic ETF approval for crypto, which is, like you said, might create a sort of waterfall moment. But it's movement, and I think that's important. Yep.
Yeah, and I like as well, Tom and CTO, what you said, is because I always say risk happens fast. And if you're not prepared to react to the movement, you're going to miss it. And sometimes as well, the psychology kicks in after something moves, even if it's 10, 15, 20% move, people think they're too late. Then it goes up 100%. And then they say, oh, time to jump in. And then it's too late. So it's a weird psychology. CTO?
Yeah, James, I like what you often say, that you express it better, but you have to be in early or be in big, something like that. What is
get
it?
In early, get in hard. Don't tiptoe in. If you know something is on the verge of making a big move, you got to go in real hard, because the brain, the reptile brain, will take over and say, oh, it's gone up too much. I've got 5% allocation in, I got 95% in cash, but it's gone up 15%. I'm going to wait for a pullback. And we saw that happen actually with one of the Tesla cyber bulls. A lady had like 30 grand waiting since 220 to deploy into Tesla. And then eventually bit the bullet at 420. So it's a weird thing. So
yeah, exactly. You have to be pretty fast. Actually, I have a rule for myself. Like, some mistake I did in the past when I just started was that I came to some conclusion. Then I thought tomorrow I will enter the position, or after I shower I will enter the position. Then you come back. Then the setup is like slightly worse than when you thought about it. Then you think, I'll wait for like a little better, and so I have a rule, like if I come to some conclusion, I need to do it immediately. I cannot go and get another coffee. I cannot do anything. I have to go immediately and do it. That I feel, because as James, you said, you have to be pretty fast. You have to get in the beginning of the trend change, or in the beginning of your insight, or whatever it is.
You have to get in with size as well. Not just get in, but get in with heft, with a big position. Tom, how do you deal with the reptile brain?
I mean, this might sound like a silly answer, but perping over and over again on small time frames, just that repetition and practice of buying low, selling high, beginning to recognize those fearful moments as opportunities, I think you can train yourself to go counter to that. So repetition, practice, and that carries over to your longer term investments or your equity trades.
Exactly. I call it salami slicing. It's like, if you make, say, 8% a week with a high degree of confidence, 80% win rate, you can turn a small position like 5 grand into way north of 100, 250K in a year, if you just take that little piece. Don't get greedy, and watch Marty's liquidation levels and play the game the market makers are playing. You want to be on their side. You don't want to be caught offside. Anyway, back to business. Sorry about that. This is important psychological stuff for the audience here. Solana now have minted 30 billion this year. Again, the total stable coins is 300 billion. That's 10% in a year, not bad. And 1.25 billion in the last 7 days. More things that point to more adoption, more crazy things happening. Now, the big question that everybody has is Bitcoin versus Sol rotation. Do you do it? We've gone through the paradox of Altseason. What do you stay in? And this is where everybody gets stuck. And that's why I believe you build your positions early, so you don't have to do this debate. Now, I'm in a tax place, so I can't swap stuff around as easily as others probably can in tax-free jurisdictions or retirement accounts. But this is what everybody's kind of thinking about. We know we could be on the cusp of something huge for Bitcoin. We've heard Tom Lee saying maybe $300,000 by year end, in 12 weeks. Kind of wild, but some people are still calling for that 250K, 250K, 250K. We know if we track M2 money supply globally, it's 165K. But we also know Solana is on the verge of launching another 10 ETFs, which will be marketed like hell. And all the digital asset treasury companies are trying to get in early before the ETF launches. So the setup is clear. I'm going to do a quick round. Which one will be the faster horse through year end, Bitcoin or Solana? Tom?
Can I pull up the chart real quick?
Yeah.
Okay.
You share your screen?
Yeah, maybe go to someone else and I'll figure this out real quick because it's my first time.
Okay.
I can show the Sol to BTC chart 1 second while Tom is bringing up.
Yeah.
this chart. So, I mean, the sold to BTC trend is up. That means that as of this period of the market, I mean, it doesn't feel like it on a day-to-day, like today, because today is down. But the Solana has advanced faster than Bitcoin during this period, which is different from the rest of 2025, where it was trending in the other direction. So that's what I use. So then it's favorable to be in Solana. If this starts changing, say this resistance breaks or the trend changes, okay, then maybe that's on pause. But that's my simple plan. But then actually I'm hung up on this. I want to talk to it one more time.
That's more important. Correct. That's more important right there. That's
like,
the most important thing.
Who has those? Where are those Solana that someone clearly is dumping every time Solana comes up to the market cap of BNB or to 100% of it, 102% of it? And how many do they have left? That's what we should figure out, guys. If we could figure out how many they have left, we can perhaps figure out when this will break through.
They don't have any. They're using customer deposits.
Well, I think their primary strategy now is they're the #1 validator on Solana, so they take all of the validator rewards and sell them.
Yeah.
Okay, Tom, your chart is up.
Yep. Sorry, I have it backwards. I have Bitcoin divided by Sol. I know it should be the other way, but the same as CTO's chart. I think the time for this flip was in July, and I take some of my crypto that's in my hardware wallet, and I flipped my Bitcoin back into Solana in January, went the other way, which was a good call. And it honestly looks like we're getting close to a point where it might make sense to go back to Bitcoin. I mean, time will tell, but just judging by where we are in the clouds, we often take a double swing, then break back into the center cloud. If you just look at how things interact, at least with the confluence model here.
Yeah, there's a couple of things that I look at, do it even simpler. If Bitcoin goes to 165K, we know the crypto market cap goes to whatever, 5 trillion plus. And then we know the alts will rise faster. And what I like to look at is dominance of the different assets, like Sol dominance compared to the crypto market cap, if Bitcoin does what it does. And of course, it's a much scarcer asset because it's much smaller and nearly 70% is staked. So if you have inflows into, like FOMO, into Solana, it's going to pump a lot more than Bitcoin will. Bitcoin takes a lot more money. So if Bitcoin does a 50% gain, Sol will do 150% gain. And that's just the simple math of it that I look at anyway. But let's get back to the agenda. We got a couple more things. Digital asset treasury companies. We spoke a while back on the sovereign put for treasuries. So for example, if the government wants to buy a big bag of, if they want to get to 1 million Bitcoin, they have 200,000 now, they need another 800,000. They could buy MicroStrategy. They get 650K. They'll take the 850K Bitcoin. This puts a minimum price on the asset like MicroStrategy. And we're seeing now companies like Strive, which is Vivek Ramaswamy's company. They want to build a Bitcoin bag fast. So what do? They bought Semler. Why did they buy Semler? Well, it's trading at a discount to NAV premium.
There you go. Well done.
Yes. So, this is, sorry, that's Solana. Sorry, this is, I got the wrong ones here. Anyway, I got the wrong chart, but the point is they were trading at a discount to the amount of Bitcoin that they hold. So it's a quick way to happen. So who expects some consolidation amongst the treasury companies here? And we've seen some wild things happen with some of these treasury companies. Let's talk about a few of them. These are the Sol treasury companies that have been stacking. The Ford, not Ford, the car company, Forward, their ticker is FORD. The ticker of Ford is F. But you can see here they have 2.4 billion, but they're trading at a 59% premium, whereas Upexi is trading at a 30% discount, which is wild. You know, it's all over the place. Stake, which is Sol Strategies, you know those guys pretty well, Marty. They're 77%. They're more of a premium to Forward. So it's kind of wild what's going on out there.
Yeah, plus we've got this new announcement. I posted it last week. The Soulmate, so a new treasury company coming out of UAE's sovereign investment fund.
Kathy Wood's shop. Yeah. Kathy Wood's she threw 300 million into that.
They took Breyer Holdings, it's NASDAQ BREA, and this is run by Marcus Santori. He's the CEO. He's if you know Marcus Santori from Kraken. But the interesting thing is on their board, they've got Arthur Laffer. I mean, he's the Presidential Medal Freedom Economist winner. He's the Laffer curve guy. So they've got this like super famous macro guy on their board, as well as Victor Fisher from Rockaway. But this is interesting with the UAE getting involved in a Solana DAT. They've only pledged 300 million initially through PIPE investment, but I expect them to be bigger. We all know the UAE Sovereign Investment Fund invests in technology, and they have $500 billion. So that's another interesting one. We know today I was told that Leah stepped down as CEO of Sol Strategies, just a little bit of alpha. I'm very excited to see where she lands up. Clearly, it's going to be a horizontal move. Maybe it'll be one of these larger DATs. We'll see where she lands up, but that's good news for her. Wish her the best. There you go. I think there's a big move now for Sol DATs. They're coming from all over the world, and they're in the $1 billion now, not the $1 million.
And the DATs are getting a little bit ruthless now as well, because if you have whether it's a Bitcoin miner or anything else and the stock is not performing, the CEOs get whacked. Same thing we saw at CleanSpark, etc. So expect more of that too. We don't know what the reasoning is, but let's talk about AI. It's the AI time of the show. We know that Elon Musk was trolling Microsoft with a company called Macro Hard. He came out last week with a thing called Grok Teams, which is going after the collaboration thing of Microsoft Teams. I've never used Microsoft Teams. I hate Microsoft products. I haven't used a Microsoft product in probably 20 years. But this is absolutely wild. We have a piece of news here that I do want to touch on, because I want to talk to our friend Era Digitalis. This one, Satya Nadella, the CEO of Microsoft, is very concerned that AI will destroy the entire company. Okay. Wild. And literally, he wasn't joking about this. He said a big shock is coming, and the company could become irrelevant or even collapse if it cannot keep up with the fast pace of AI, or if it's disrupted by AI created offerings that, enterprise software type offerings. And he's also worried that the employees of his company, all the good people, are leaving because they want to move onto a faster horse that's developing quicker and get away from the legacy of Microsoft enterprise software. How wild is this, CTO, or did you expect it?
Yeah, I haven't read listened to the full interview, but my guess is that he probably said something like you said, unless we do this and that.
Yeah.
But I mean, that there will be massive disruption, and that there is no doubt about it. I did listen to an interview with, I think he's head of AI strategy at Microsoft, something like that. And he said that one thing that kind of struck me a little bit, like today, we're only using AI at one moment of time. Like it's a prediction that we input a bunch of stuff, we could prepare our prompt or whatever, and then we get one output. And that's it. That's how we use the AI models today. While if we think about how the brain works, we do those predictions continuously forward in time. Like right now, I'm thinking what will happen next, and you're thinking what will happen next. And we kind of keep doing those predictions the whole time. While AI is still at the model where we only do it as a one shot. It's like taking a photo or something like that. While he said the next step, which isn't limited by any technology, it's just computing power, is to keep doing this prediction the whole time. A little bit like we work our brain. Like we don't do it as a snapshot. We do it as a continuous processing. It keeps calculating the same thing forward throughout, the day and the week and the month and the year. And that we haven't even started yet. And the technology for that is already here today. It's just like a limitation in computing power and electricity. So that, we're still in the first steps of this AI revolution. And I think even us technology optimists and investors, we can't understand how far this will take us. It could erase Microsoft, it could erase Google, it could completely change the landscape of the companies that don't keep up. This is like the faucet trap. We have a Swedish expression because we had a company in Sweden that had like basically monopoly on the mechanical calculators. Every office in the world had a faucet calculator. And in 6 months, they were obsolete and replaced by Japanese electronic calculators. Mm. And this happened many decades ago. And this is the moment where this will happen again. Companies that feel indestructible can get obsolete and new opportunities will come. And there's never been a better time than now, I think, to take advantage of this. If we can identify a few of these winners, they will go many multiples up. It's not like that era isn't over where we can make big multiples on technology stocks. No, it's still here.
Exactly. Marty, we saw a crazy thing happen last week. 2 weeks ago, we had a thing called Grok Code launch from XAI. And it displaced, in the space of 2 weeks, it displaced all the incumbent players out there. Now, from your coding experience, have you ever seen disruption happen in the space of 14 days from zero to destroying the competition, where all the developers go to one platform?
But I mean, all of my peers who run tech companies and manage developers are saying that Grok Code, ChatGPT Code, specifically in IDEs like Cursor and Klein, are just taking over. It's no doubt that this is an exponential adoption curve, specifically for things like code review. Code review and code maintenance is the cornerstone backbone of software engineering, and that's most of the software jobs in the world are people to make small changes and then to review those changes and make sure they don't affect things upstream. And AI is built for things like that, so it's replacing all those jobs. I think we're going to see an erosion of engineering, of software engineering jobs like you've never seen.
Yeah, and by the way, when we talk about this Microsoft, it's not just Microsoft. It's Salesforce. It's Oracle. It's
everything.
That's why Oracle is pivoting. Oracle whacking entire enterprise software departments, developers, to buy more GPUs
100%.
to put into their $500 billion of back orders of capacity for compute. The world is spinning from building software to building compute to ultimately have a ton of inference to do all our jobs.
So you understand that when you build software, I mean, when I worked at Oracle, I mean, when you get a new application, somebody specs out a new application. It takes you like 6 months with a dedicated team to build a prototype, right? To demo. Well, with Grok Code, you can build a demo in literally 24 hours. Just think about that. It goes 6 months to 24 hours. That's the efficiency ratio. It's a parabolic efficiency ratio, and this will attack all industries, not just software industry, which is the low-hanging fruit because it's very much based on very repetitive patterns and best practices. But it's going to attack everything: legal, everything, insurance, any industry that has some kind of systematic, repetitive, pattern-based function performed by human beings, which are error-prone and slow, have human problems, are going to get eroded by AI extremely fast. And I think Elon Musk is jumping all over that.
Yeah. Tom, how are you playing this AI disruption? I know you're perping on the 1 minute time frame.
Yeah. Even, I think people should be careful, but some of the energy plays, we've seen OKLO, and then we've also seen the quantum computing stocks rally, which can be great opportunities. I think folks just need to be, I guess, clear-eyed with those, that they can cut both ways, and it can be a great opportunity, but catch the pumps and then get out and rotate into something more stable, like Tesla, for instance, which is the one green ticker behind me today.
Exactly. So let's talk a final topic, market structure. Marty, you talked about market structure for a long time. Tom, you've got some points on it. Let's try wrap up in 60 seconds before we have to close out the hour. Go, Tom.
Sure.
Yeah, the market structure bill is huge. I'll just give the high-level bullet points. So we're getting clear regulatory roles between the SEC and the CFTC, which is great. And there's a mechanism in there that would oversee tokenized assets that look like securities, while the CFTC would govern true commodity-like digital assets. And the bill provides a mechanism for the assets to move from one regulator to the other if the characteristics change, which I think is very important. Stablecoin guardrails, and permitted payment rules for stablecoins, which is going to be huge. New registration licensing regime for exchanges, brokers, custodians, and market infrastructure. Modernizing securities rules for tokenized products and tokenized securities, and a focus on anti-money laundering, illicit finance, and international cooperation. So the big takeaways, it's going to be a big boost to institutional on-ramps and product launches. Stablecoins become more bank-like and usable as on-ramps, faster ETF licensing approvals for spot crypto products. There might be some short-term friction with some projects and exchanges, but reduced regulatory enforcement and uncertainty is a big win. So sorry, Gary.
Yeah, I think another big important one, it's called the Clarity Act. Another big part of the Clarity Act that I'm most excited to see the effect on our market, specifically as traders, is they're going to regulate anti-fraud and anti-manipulation. So surveillance of any exchange, any market maker relationship, all of the same rules that are on the stock market will be imposed through the Clarity Act, which will mean that the manipulation will have to end or be lowered or surveilled. It'll be harder to manipulate through market makers. And that's interesting. Like as traders, like how is that going to affect the market? Will it remove some of the volatility? Perhaps the writing's on the wall, and Bybit and Binance know that this is coming. And so this is like the peak of the West, of the Wild West we're going through right now, or the last flush we might see. It's an interesting time, but the Clarity Act definitely will change the market, I believe. And that's coming. We've been promised that they're going to pass it before Christmas.
Awesome, everybody. To wrap, Altseason is not off. CTO's upside down chart says it could happen, and it's probably going to happen. It's going to happen fast. Hopefully more regulation will come to stop the manipulators wrecking people who are perping. Everybody play like the market makers. Do not and have a process, have a system. And we could have some big news about Bitcoin on Tuesday and so much more. I want to say a big thank you to Tom for joining us. First time on the show. And shout out to Marty Party, bringing the alpha, bringing the heat, bringing the liquidation levels every single day. And CTO, thank you, sir, as well. All the links for everybody here are in the bottom of my description, and you're watching on everybody's channel anyway. So big shout out to the 10,000 people watching live. Appreciate you all, my lovely people. Thank you. Have a great week, everybody.
Great show. Tom, love to have you, man. That was really good. Enjoy your luck.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, Tom, you said something that's very important, worth repeating again. Mm-hmm. And I'm historically a swing trader. I like 8 to 12 week cycles because it's much easier to predict movements. It's very difficult to know what's going to happen minute to minute or day to day. So everybody, find your rhythm, find your time frame, and excel at it.
That is absolutely important. Focus on the few things you know well. And just one thing I wanted to say for the audience with Altseason, it can only last 4 to 6 weeks. So be ready now. Like, look at your altcoins. Which charts are showing subtle signs of strength? Get in your positions now, because when the pump happens, if you're not on the train, you can really miss it.
Well said.
Exactly. 100%.
You agree with that, CTO? Of course you do.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I have to be very fast on this. I have to kind of think out the strategy beforehand. Otherwise, it becomes impossible. You cannot do it in the moment. It feels so emotional and everything. You have to have the plan clear beforehand, and then maybe you can stick to it.
I always say that. Have a plan, stick to it. Don't let the reptile brain take over. Thank you all. Have a great week, my friends. Thank you to the
Bye,
everybody.
Take care.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.